In the month of Dhul Qa'dah, 6th Hijrah, 628 CE, the Quraysh of Mecca and the Muslim of Medina signed a 10-year truce called the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, Hudaybiyah. According to the terms of the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, the Arab tribes were free to enter into treaty relations with either the Muslims or the Quraysh. Taking advantage of this stipulation, the tribe of Banu Quzah wrote a treaty of friendship with the Prophet Muhammad of Islam, and another tribe, Banu Bakr, became an ally of the Quraysh. Hostility had existed between these two tribes since pre-Islamic times, but now both had to abide by the terms of the Treaty of Hudaybiyah and to refrain from attacking each other on account of the new arrangement. With the Quraysh now believing, after the Battle of Mu'tah, that Muslim power had crumbled, Banu al-Dil, a clan of Banu Bakr, thought that the occasion had come to avenge themselves against Quzah. But 18 months after the Treaty of Hudaybiyah had been signed, a band of the warriors of Banu Bakr suddenly attacked Banu Quzah in their homes at night. The time of this attack is given as late Rajab of 8 Hijrah, November 629. The Quzah had done nothing to provoke this attack. They took refuge in the precincts of the Kaaba, but their enemies pursued them even there and killed a number of them. Others saved their lives by seeking the protection of Budayl bin Waraka and his friend Rafa'ah in their houses in Mecca. Banu Bakr could not have attacked Quzah without the connivance and encouragement, if not the open support of the Quraysh. Tabari, the historian, says that Ikrimah bin Abu Jahl, Safwan bin Umayyah, and Suhail bin Amr, all leading figures of Quraysh, disguised themselves and fought at the side of Banu Bakr against the Quzah. Of these three, the last named was the chief signatory of the Quraysh to the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. One of the chiefs of Quzah, Amr bin Salim, went to Medina and appealed to the Prophet Muhammad for his intervention. The Muhammad Prophet was shocked to hear the story of the outrage. As an ally of the Quzah, he had to defend them from their enemies. But before considering military action, he made an attempt to employ peaceful means to obtain redress and justice. He sent a messenger to the Quraysh and suggested that 1. The clients of Quraysh, i.e. Banu Bakr, or Quraysh themselves, pay bloodwit to the Banu Quzah, or 2. Quraysh should waive their protection of Banu Bakr, or 3. They should declare the Treaty of Hudaybiyah to be void. The man who answered for the Quraysh was Qurtaba bin Umar. He said to the envoy of the Prophet that only the last of the three terms was acceptable to them. In other words, the Quraysh told him that the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, with its stipulation of a 10-year truce, was already a dead letter as far as they were concerned. The hotheads of the Quraysh had been quick to repudiate the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, but very soon their more realistic and discreet leaders realized that the answer they had sent to Medina was a blunder, as it had been dictated not by prudence and sagacity, but by presumption and arrogance. And when they thought of what the consequences of their action could be, they decided to act immediately to avert disaster. But how? After an animated discussion, they agreed that Abu Sufyan should go to Medina and should try to persuade the Prophet Muhammad to renew the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. When Abu Sufyan arrived in Medina, he first went to see his daughter, Habiba, one of the wives of the Prophet Muhammad. As he was going to sit on a rug, she pulled it from under him and said, "You are an unclean idolater, and I cannot allow you to sit on the rug of the messenger of God." Shaken by such a reception, he left her and went to the mosque, hoping to see the Prophet Muhammad himself, but the latter did not give him audience. He then solicited the aid of Abu Bakr, Umar, and Ali, but all of them told him that they could not intercede for him with the Prophet Muhammad, and he returned to Mecca empty-handed. The Quraysh had broken the pledge, and the envoys of Quzah were still in Medina, demanding justice. If the Prophet Muhammad had condoned the crime of the Quraysh, he would have seriously compromised his own position in the sight of all Arabs. He could not allow this to happen. Eventually, the Prophet decided to capture Mecca, and he ordered the Muslims to mobilize. Muhammad prepared a secret expedition to take Mecca by surprise. All roads leading to Mecca were barred to prevent any intelligence of his movements being carried to Mecca. But among the fugitives from Mecca, there was one Hateb, whose family had remained behind and were without connections or friends to take an interest in their welfare. Hateb now thought to gain favor for them among the Quraysh by betraying the plans of Prophet Muhammad. He accordingly wrote a letter revealing the intended enterprise and gave it in charge of a singing woman who undertook to carry it to Mecca. She was already on the road when Prophet Muhammad was appraised of the treachery. Ali and 5 others, well mounted, were sent in pursuit of the messenger. They soon overtook her, but searched her person in vain. Most of them would have given up the search and turned back, but Ali was confident that the prophet of God could not be mistaken nor misinformed. Drawing his scimitar, he swore to kill the messenger unless the letter was produced. The threat was effectual. She drew forth the letter from among her hair. Hateb, on being taxed with his perfidy, acknowledged it, but pleaded anxiety to secure favor for his destitute family, and his certainty that the letter would be harmless and of no avail against the purposes of the apostle of God. Omar spurned at these excuses and would have struck off his head, but Muhammad, calling to mind that Hateb had fought bravely in support of the faith in the Battle of Badr, forgave him. The army of Islam left Medina on the 10th of Ramadan of 8 Hijrah, February 1st, 630 CE. The news that an army was marching southwards spread rapidly in the desert, and even reached Mecca itself. Those members of the clan of Banu Hashim who were still in Mecca decided, upon hearing this news, to leave the city and to meet the advancing army. Among them were Abbas bin Abdul Muttalib, the uncle of the Prophet, Aqil bin Abi Talib, and Abu Sufyan bin al-Harith bin Abdul Muttalib, his cousins. They joined the army of Islam and re-entered Mecca with it. In the afternoon of the 19th of Ramadan, the army arrived in Mer ad-Duran in the north of Mecca and halted there to spend the night. At night, the Prophet Muhammad ordered his soldiers to light little fires, and the whole plain lit up with thousands of bonfires. Abu Sufyan and Hakim bin Hizam had also left Mecca to investigate the reports of the invasion by the Muslims. Riding north on the road to Medina, they also arrived in Mer ad-Duran and were dumbfounded to see countless little fires burning in the valley. When they realized they were in the camp of the Muslims, they were greatly troubled, not knowing what they could do to save themselves or their city. Abbas bin Abdul Muttalib also had great anxiety for the safety of the Meccans. He feared that if they offered resistance, they would be massacred. He was riding the white horse of the Prophet Muhammad through the camp, when at its southern perimeter he suddenly ran into Abu Sufyan and Hakim bin Hizam. He told them that they could see the numbers of the Muslims and that the Quraysh had no power to resist them. Abu Sufyan asked him what he ought to do. Abbas told him to ride behind him on his horse, and that he would take him to the Prophet Muhammad and would try to get safe conduct for him. Hakim bin Hizam returned to Mecca to report on what he had seen and heard. Abbas and Abu Sufyan rode through the Muslim camp. Presently, they rode past the tent of Umar, and he wanted to know who were the 2 visitors. When Umar recognized Abu Sufyan, he was thrilled and said to him, "O enemy of God, at last you are in my power, and now I am going to kill you." But Abbas told him that he, Abu Sufyan, was under his protection. Thereupon Umar rushed to see the Prophet Muhammad and solicited his permission to kill him. But the Prophet Muhammad just told Abbas to bring him on the following morning. Early next morning, Abbas, Abu Sufyan, and Umar, all 3 appeared before the tent of the Prophet Muhammad. Umar was raring to kill Abu Sufyan, but the Prophet Muhammad restrained him and invited the latter to accept Islam. Abu Sufyan was not very eager to accept Islam, but Abbas told him that if he didn't, then Umar would kill him, and he would never return to Mecca. Faced by the specter of death, Abu Sufyan declared the Shahada, which formally admitted him to the community of the Muslims. Abbas also requested the Prophet Muhammad to grant Abu Sufyan some favor which he would equate with a distinction. The Prophet Muhammad said that all those Meccans who would enter Abu Sufyan's house, or would stay in their own houses, or would enter the precincts of the Kaaba, would be safe from all harm. Abu Sufyan was very proud that the Prophet Muhammad had declared his house to be a sanctuary for the idolaters of Mecca. It was Friday, Ramadan 20, 8 Hijrah, February 11, 630 CE, when the army of Islam broke camp at Mer ad-Duran and marched toward Mecca. Abbas and Abu Sufyan stood on the brow of an eminence to watch the squadrons march past them. The latter was much impressed by the order, the discipline, the numbers and the esprit de corps of the formations, and said to Abbas, "Your nephew has truly won a great kingdom and great power." Abbas snapped, "Woe to you! This is prophethood and not a kingdom." Abu Sufyan had never seen such an awesome sight before, and with his pagan reflexes and extremely limited vision, could interpret it only in terms of Abu material power. But he realized that the game for him and the idolaters was over at last, and the only important thing now was to save his and their lives. Sufyan rushed back to Mecca, and entering the precincts of the Kaaba, called out aloud, "O Meccans, Prophet Muhammad has arrived with his army, and you have no power to oppose him. Those of you who enter my house would be safe from harm, and now only your unconditional surrender can save you from massacre." But who would defend Mecca and how? Presently, Abu Sufyan was surrounded by other citizens of Mecca, and one of them asked him, "Your house can accommodate only a few people. How can so many people find sanctuary in it?" He said, "All those people who stay in their own houses or enter the precincts of the Kaaba would also be safe." This ordinance meant that all that the idolaters would have to do to save their lives would be to stay indoors and to refrain from challenging the invaders. Muhammad, who knew not what resistance he might meet with, made a careful distribution of his forces as he approached Mecca. While the main body marched directly forward, strong detachments advanced over the hills on each side. To Ali, who commanded a large body of cavalry, was confided the sacred banner, which he was to plant on Mount Hajun and maintain it there until joined by the Prophet. Express orders were given to all the generals to practice forbearance and in no instance to make the first attack. Prophet Muhammad, the messenger of God, entered Mecca from the north. Usama, the son of his friend and the martyr of Mu'tah, Zayd bin Haritha, was riding pillion with him. Prophet Muhammad's head was bowed low, and he was reciting the chapter from the Quran called The Victory. Ali carried the banner of Islam as he rode at the head of the cavalry. The Muhammad Prophet ordered Zubair bin al-Awwam to enter the city from the west, and Khalid bin al-Walid from the south. He gave strict orders to his army not to kill anyone except in self-defense. He had long desired to destroy the idols in the Kaaba, but he wished to do so without any bloodshed. 8 years earlier, Prophet Muhammad had left Mecca as a toad with a price on his head, and now he was entering the same city as its conqueror. His manner, however, bespoke not of pride or even of exultation, but of gratitude and humility. Gratitude to God for His mercy in bestowing success upon His humble slave, and humility in the contemplation of the vanity of worldly glory and the evanescence of all things human. The Prophet Muhammad rode into the precincts of the Kaaba, dismounted from his camel, called his cousin Ali ibn Abi Talib, and both of them entered the Kaaba, cognizant of the divine commandment to the prophets Muhammad, Abraham, Ibrahim, and Ismail. And we covenanted with Abraham and Ismail that they should sanctify my house. The Prophet Muhammad and Ali found the house of God, Kaaba, in a state of defilement. It had become a pantheon of 360 idols, and it had to be sanctified. The Prophet Muhammad knocked down each idol as he read the following verse from the Quran. Truth has come, and falsehood has vanished. For falsehood is, by its nature, bound to vanish. The largest idol in the pantheon was that of Hubal, the dynastic god of the clan of Banu Umayyah. Abu Sufyan had taken it with him on a camel into the Battle of Uhud to inspire his warriors with its presence. Hubal was mounted on a high pedestal, and the Prophet Muhammad could not reach it. He, therefore, ordered Ali to climb on his shoulders and to knock it down. In obedience to the prophetic command, Ali had to stand on the shoulders of the Prophet Muhammad. He aimed a blow at the principal deity of the idolaters and smashed it into pieces. With that tremendous stroke, Ali put an end forever to idolatry in the Kaaba. Kaaba, the house of God, had been sanctified. When all the idols had been destroyed, all images had been effaced, and all vestiges of polytheism had been obliterated, Prophet Muhammad, the messenger of God, ordered Bilal to call out azan. Bilal called azan, and the valley of Mecca rang out with his rich and sonorous takbir. The Prophet Muhammad then made the 7 circuits of the Kaaba and offered prayer of thanksgiving to his Creator. In the meantime, the Quraysh had gathered in the court of the Kaaba awaiting the Prophet Muhammad. They hoped that he would give them audience before giving a verdict on their fate. Presently, the Prophet Muhammad appeared at the threshold of the Kaaba. He surveyed the crowd in front of him and addressed it as follows. There is no God but Allah. He is one and all alone, and He has no partners. All praise and thanks to Him. He has fulfilled His promise. He has helped His slave to victory, and He has dispersed the gangs of His enemies.